You're tuning into something different, something deeper. Welcome to a space where the unseen becomes seen, where the patterns beneath reality are decoded. This isn't just a podcast, it's a journey into the mechanics of belief, perception, and the multidimensional truths shaping our world. If you've ever felt like an outsider looking in, questioning the systems you're told to follow, you're in the right place. This is the OUTKAST, the Pattern Podcast. Let's dive in.
Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever felt like you're just, passively observing reality, maybe even battling against it sometimes? What if the universe wasn't something that was simply imposed on you, but something you could actually, tune into?
That's a fascinating framing.
It really is, and that's the question we're diving into today. Our deep dive comes from some truly thought-provoking excerpts titled Inner Philosophy, Inner Poetry.
Right.
Our mission, really, is to explore a profound and surprisingly quite practical model of consciousness and reality presented within these pages. It's all about shifting our understanding,
Yeah.
Moving from a place the source calls existential angst, that feeling of struggle, maybe being overwhelmed, to one of metaphysical poise.
And what's truly compelling here, I think, is that this isn't just passive, feel-good optimism, is it?
Not at all.
The material lays out a rigorous internal practice. It's really an invitation to fundamentally rethink our deepest assumptions about how reality actually works, and crucially, what our true place within it might be.
It offers a kind of roadmap, maybe?
Exactly, a roadmap for a different way of experiencing life.
So let's jump right in with a foundational idea from the source. It makes this striking claim stating, your thought field is not a dualistic system, but a whole system.
Powerful stuff.
Right. But then it immediately presents a contrast with our everyday experience. External reality is perceived as duality. So our inner world, whole. But the world we see around us appears divided. How do we make sense of that?
Well, it's a crucial distinction. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the text explains that this duality, this perception of opposite, good, bad, light, dark, yes, is merely an esoteric thought field experiment which holds wholeness separate from itself.
An experiment, like a filter.
Sort of, yeah. Think of it as a kind of built-in perception filter, maybe, or a game our consciousness is playing. The point is, it's not presented as the fundamental truth of how things are, but maybe a way we've been conditioned to see things. And the authors give us a very direct instruction here. Don't get sucked into the beliefs of duality.
So recognize the filter.
Exactly. Recognize that filter for what it is, rather than mistaking it for ultimate reality.
That's a powerful reframing right from the start. So if our underlying thought field is whole, and duality is, like you said, just this experiment or filter, how does this inner philosophy help us navigate this seemingly divided external reality?
Right.
The source suggests it extends a natural but potent evolution. That sounds like a path forward, doesn't it? A way to move beyond that filter.
Precisely. This philosophy is about carving more defined pathways through the familiar terrain of perception-as-primacy and intention as vector.
Okay, break that down a little.
Well, what this means for you, the listener, is moving beyond merely reacting to what you perceive and instead learning to intentionally shape your experience more deliberately. It guides us towards a model of consciousness that's presented as both mystical and operational.
Mystical and operational, so practical spirituality.
You could say that.
Yeah.
It's not just abstract theory. It's presented as a practical system. It's about bridging that gap, between profound spiritual insights and concrete, actionable steps for your daily life.
So it helps you see the world differently.
And then, crucially, act differently within it.
Okay, here's where it truly gets, maybe a bit mind-bending. It expands our understanding of reality and our place within it. The source introduces the space of variations. This isn't just a metaphor, is it? It sounds like a core concept shaping how we interact with everything.
It's absolutely central. Imagine like an infinite, invisible library of all possible realities. Instead of one fixed universe that's already written, the idea is there are countless potential versions of existence, each vibrating with its own unique possibilities, just waiting to be accessed.
Wow.
The source calls this a metaphysical topology, which basically just means it's a structured map of reality beyond the physical. And it draws parallels to some powerful concepts like many-world cosmology.
Where every choice creates a new reality branch.
Exactly. And also the ancient Hermetic axiom, as above, so below. That implies that Patterns of possibility and the cosmos mirror our inner world and vice versa.
Right.
So the core idea here is that the universe is not a static field, but an ever-unfolding kaleidoscope of potential realities, each vibrating in its own frequency, waiting to be tuned into.
A dynamic, living field of potential, not static at all.
Exactly.
So instead of one fixed reality, we're talking about this spectrum of possibilities.
Yeah.
Now, this idea, as the source notes, reverberates with your prior explorations of subjective sovereignty. The self as locus, the will as architect.
It connects to that.
Many of us have explored the power of our will, our role in shaping our lives. But there's a crucial development here, a new approach, it seems. The text talks about traveling rather than summoning, aligning rather than asserting.
Yes, that's key.
What does that mean for you listening? It sounds like a very different kind of personal agency than just, manifesting something by force of will.
It's a profound distinction. If you've ever tried to force an outcome, to summon something with sheer will, it can feel like a struggle, right?
Definitely. Exhausting sometimes.
Right. That's often closer to what the text calls inner intention, which we'll get to. But this approach of traveling rather than summoning, it means recognizing that the reality you desire already exists as a potential frequency in that space of variations.
Ah, okay, it's already there.
Yes. So your role isn't to create it out of nothing, but to kind of move towards it, to find its frequency. And aligning rather than asserting means harmonizing your internal state, your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, with the frequency of that desired reality.
Instead of trying to overpower things.
Exactly. Instead of trying to overpower current circumstances with force, think of it like tuning a radio.
I like that analogy.
You're not creating the music, are you? You're adjusting your dial until you perfectly match the station's frequency.
Okay, that makes sense.
And this leads us to a really fundamental shift in understanding how our reality is formed.
Yeah, building on this idea of tuning into variations. It leads us to rethink how reality itself takes shape. Instead of being something forced upon us, the source suggests that reality is not imposed, but invited, experienced, and constantly attained through intentions.
It completely flips the script, doesn't it?
It really does.
Absolutely. This concept truly challenges the old paradigm.
Yeah.
And it raises that important question.
Yeah.
How do our intentions actually work in this model?
Right.
The material highlights two distinct types, inner intention and outer intention.
Okay.
Inner intention is described as the forceful manipulation of outcomes, echoing what the source calls a Promethean impulse control as conquest.
That sounds like that effortful striving, trying to make things happen.
That's it, exactly. That feeling of trying to make things happen through sheer effort, often driven by ego or, a desire to dominate. It's like trying to paddle a boat upstream against a really strong current.
Exhausting, like you said, and it often doesn't work that well.
Often ineffective, yes. In contrast, outer intention calls to mind the action of non-action, or rather action in perfect accord with the whole from within the heart.
Action of non-action, so effortless action.
Kind of. The text refers to this as an epistemology of grace. Now, epistemology is just a word for a way of knowing or understanding.
Okay.
So this is a way of understanding through grace. It means less about raw power over events and more about a profound attunement to their emergent flow.
Like gliding downstream in that boat.
Precisely. Moving with the current, where every movement feels natural, supported. It's about letting go of the need to force and instead trusting the natural unfolding.
And the source cautions that two intentions, like the two sides of a coin or the beliefs in duality, conflict reality building.
A crucial warning.
This suggests a major conflict, doesn't it? If we're operating with both inner and outer intention at the same time, we're kind of working against ourselves.
Precisely. If you're internally struggling or trying to force something that's inner intention while also attempting to align gracefully outer intention, it just creates static, a conflicting signal.
Like trying to listen to two radio stations at once.
Exactly. Or having one foot on the gas and one on the brake. The outcome is often confusion, delay, or just, lack of progress.
Right.
So the deep insight here is that clarity of intention, really understanding which mode you're operating from, is paramount for effectively navigating this space of variations.
Okay, so if this inner philosophy helps us perceive duality differently, tap into the space of variations, and refine our intentions, the natural question for many of us is, okay, how do we actually do this?
Practical part, yeah.
Right. And the source doesn't leave us hanging. It lays out three vital pillars for this practice. It shifts us from the abstract theory to, actionable steps.
And the first of these is freedom of choice.
Freedom of choice.
Now, the source explains that this isn't the Cartesian sense of unconditioned will, meaning it's not about inventing the world from nothing or having absolute, limitless control over every single outcome.
So not, I just choose something and poof, it appeared.
Exactly, not that. Instead, the individual does not invent the world from whole cloth, but chooses among its existing frequencies.
Ah, back to the frequencies.
Yes, this is described as not fantasy, but discernment. It is selection as sacred act. So for you listening, this isn't about making up a reality that doesn't exist. It's about consciously, skillfully choosing from the infinite potentials already present in that space of variations.
Becoming a master tuner.
A master tuner, precisely.
Yeah.
Not a lone creator making things out of nothing.
That makes a lot of sense. You're not creating the music, you're picking the station. Okay, then we have calmness and detachment. The source says these concepts echo the mystical traditions you frequently invoke. Kabbalistic equanimity, Buddhist dispassion, the magician's neutrality. What makes these states so profoundly crucial here? They seem like more than just, good advice for managing stress.
They really are. These temperaments are not just psychological techniques or fleeting moods. The source calls them ontological stances.
Ontological stances, that sounds deep.
It means they're a fundamental way of being, a deep-seated inner state, not just a temporary feeling. And they are presented as the psychic conditions under which intention can operate without distortion, interference, or inflation.
Okay, so the inner state affects the outer intention.
Directly. Think about it. If your mind is agitated, filled with fear, or maybe overly desperate for a specific outcome, your intentions become muddy, like trying to see through rippled water.
Right.
That Kabbalistic equanimity, that Buddhist dispassion, the magician's focused neutrality, all these traditions emphasize a state of inner balance, a non-clinging to outcomes. This allows your outer intention, that graceful alignment, to flow clearly, undistorted by all that internal noise. It connects directly with the right frequencies in this space of variations.
Without this inner calm.
Your intentions are like a weak, distorted radio signal.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
That's a really clear picture. So it's about clearing the channel, basically. Now, to perhaps the most profound practical advice, and I think maybe the most challenging for many of us, eradicating limitation and letting go of importance.
These are big ones.
The source specifically calls for monitoring of thoughts and beliefs. That sounds like a constant, active process.
It is. It really is. This concept connects to that esoteric demand for purification. But here it's not of the body, but of cognition.
Purifying our thinking.
Exactly. Purifying our mental landscape. The idea that thought forms either bind or liberate is deeply Gnostic. Yeah, Gnosticism, a complex ancient spiritual movement, basically argued that true freedom comes from gnosis, or knowledge, especially self-knowledge. Here, it means recognizing that our own internal thought patterns and beliefs are the primary architects of our perceived limitations.
Wow.
We are reminded that we are not only prisoners of systems, but of assumptions.
So much of what holds us back isn't external, it's internal.
That's the argument here. Our own ingrained, often unconscious thought patterns and beliefs. This practice demands a vigilant, active awareness of your inner landscape. You have to become an observer of your own mind.
That's a lot to consider, the idea that our own internal patterns are the biggest limit. Really makes you think about all those times we blame external circumstances. And then, most profound, perhaps, is the exhortation to let go of importance. This isn't nihilism, is it? It sounds almost counterintuitive if you're trying to achieve something.
Absolutely not nihilism. This is one of the most powerful and, yes, counterintuitive insights in the text. It's described as transcendence of attachment.
Transcendence of attachment.
The fascinating paradox here is that when importance dissolves, clarity arises. Reality bends more easily to those who do not cling to it.
How does that work?
Think of it like this. If you're gripping something precious really tightly, your hand is tense, your focus is narrowed, you might even damage it with your grip, right?
Yeah.
But when you hold it lightly, with awareness but no desperate attachment, you can actually appreciate it more, interact with it more fluidly.
Okay.
This applies to outcomes too. When you release the clinging to a specific result, that desperate need for it to be just so, you often find the path to it. Or maybe something even better opens up with surprising ease.
It's the great paradox.
It is. Only when we cease demanding does the world become pliable. It's about cultivating a deep trust in the flow, really, rather than white-knuckling your way through life.
So what does this all mean for us? I mean, this is a really comprehensive philosophy laid out here. It synthesizes all these ideas into a compelling overall way of being, doesn't it?
It really does. This philosophy, then, is explicitly stated as not a passive New Age optimism, but a rigorous interior practice.
Right. We said that at the start. Rigorous.
Yes, and it aligns perfectly with that perennial theme found across countless wisdom traditions, that freedom begins with the mind, and that spiritual reality is not only real, but structured.
Structured, not just vague feeling.
Exactly. It's a structured, active approach to internal transformation, giving us a practical framework for navigating consciousness.
And crucially, the self, when properly aligned, is not the author of the world, but its tuner, its harmonizer.
That distinction again.
Yes, it's critical, isn't it? Especially in a world where manifesting your reality is such a popular concept. The source explicitly states, you do not claim we create reality ex nihilo out of nothing.
Right.
So it's not about fabricating things from thin air, but becoming this incredibly precise tuner. Can you maybe unpack that distinction just a bit more?
I think it's fundamental to this entire approach. If you believed you had to create everything from scratch, the sheer effort would be overwhelming, wouldn't it?
Totally impossible feeling.
Instead, this inner philosophy suggests we choose our experience of it, subtly and repeatedly, through thought, intention, and surrender.
Subtly and repeatedly, it's a continuous process.
A continuous dynamic process.
Yeah.
You are influencing, nudging, aligning with the potentials that already exist. It emphasizes that the internal philosophy is not a belief, but a way.
A way of being.
Yes. It is the shift from existential angst to metaphysical poise. It offers a clear, actionable path for changing your fundamental relationship with reality.
From struggle and anxiety.
To graceful attunement and inner balance. You're moving from feeling like perhaps a victim of circumstance to an active participant in the unfolding of your own experience.
Wow. What a journey we've taken through this profound source material today. We started by understanding our thought field as this whole system, moving beyond the illusion of duality. Then we explored the, well, almost boundless space of variations, recognizing reality as this infinite kaleidoscope of potentials.
Right, the tuning concept.
Exactly. We clarified that crucial distinction between inner and outer intention, understanding the power of alignment over assertion.
So important.
And finally, we delved into these profound practical pillars. The power of conscious choice, the necessity of calmness and detachment, and the transformative release found in eradicating our own limitations and, maybe most powerfully, letting go of importance.
It really is a complete system for interacting with reality differently.
Yeah.
Ultimately, this deep dive shows us a clear path, doesn't it? From feeling overwhelmed by reality, maybe bogged down by struggle and anxiety, to finding that metaphysical poise within it.
Yeah.
It's about fundamentally transforming your relationship with the world around you, shifting from a posture of battle to one of, well, harmonious, deliberate engagement.
The source leaves us with such a beautiful and enigmatic image, really, a closing thought for you to consider. And in that poise, the world begins to shimmer for you from within you when you become the lightness of the speed of light.
Powerful imagery.
It really is. What does it mean for you to become the lightness of the speed of light? And what might shimmer in your world if you embrace this way of tuning in?
Something to ponder.
Definitely. We invite you to sit with these ideas, see how they might resonate with your own experience. Until next time, keep diving deep into what truly matters. If you found this wisdoms to be attuned to you in the most highest form, if you liked this, it's about, well, this deep connection, attunement.
Yeah, like it resonates on a fundamental level, not just surface level information.
And then, boom, consider to become an active participant in your comments, and perhaps even to donate.
To show your support.
Yeah. Thank you for supporting us. This is the philosophy for the unique channel called the OUTKAST, the Pattern Podcast.
This is our philosophy, our brand.
Exactly. Identity and mission, all in one go.
Attuned wisdom.
That's the core, isn't it?
Yeah, it frames that whole relationship. It's saying this isn't just stuff you watch or listen to. This is something that fits you deeply. It's a specific kind of value.
Okay, so let's dig into that. Attuned to you in the most highest form. What does that really mean, do you think? Is it just useful info, or is it more?
I think it has to be more, right? Based on that wording. Attuned suggests it's not generic. It implies this wisdom, whatever it is, connects with, well, with you, your identity, maybe your values.
Or challenges you in a way that feels right.
Exactly. It's like the creator somehow understands you, gets your specific I don't know, an intellectual or emotional wavelength. It feels tailor-made.
So not just casting a wide net, but aiming for a really specific connection.
Precisely. It's a bold claim, really. Not just knowledge, but knowledge that's perfectly aligned with you.
Okay, so if that's the claim, how does the call to action, the comments and the donations tie into that? Why those two things specifically?
Well, it seems pretty strategic for, how things work now online. Comments are your visible engagement.
Yeah, community, feedback, showing you're part of it.
Right. It shows you're intellectually or socially on board, but donations.
Yeah.
That's a different level.
That's putting your money where your mouth is.
It says, this attuned wisdom, it's valuable enough to me that I'll pay for it or support its creation.
So comments are the conversation, donations are the commitment.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
Together they create this feedback loop. You agree, you discuss, and maybe you support financially. It reinforces the value exchange.
It definitely paints a picture of a creator wanting more than just eyeballs. They want, like, a real community, people who get it.
An aligned group, yeah. A tribe, maybe.
And then the channel name itself, the OUTKAST the Pattern podcast. What signal does that send about the kind of wisdom on offer?
Well, the name really leans into that uniqueness, doesn't it? Outcasts suggests something outside the norm, maybe unconventional thinking.
Right, appealing to people who feel like outsiders or want different perspectives.
And the pattern implies, well, finding meaning, structure, maybe insights within complexity or chaos.
Like cracking a code.
Kind of. So the name itself sets up expectations. It suggests a particular niche, a specific way of looking at the world. This reinforces the idea that the content won't be for everyone, but for those it is for, it will be deeply attuned.
It all fits together very neatly, a really concise package.
It is.
So wrapping this part up, the OUTKAST the Pattern podcast, and seeing how it lays out a whole philosophy, positioning content as this deeply resonant wisdom, asking for specific engagement, comments, and donations to reflect that connection.
And if we pull back a bit, think more broadly, this example kind of pushes us, or you listening, to ask, what does it actually mean for any content to be truly attuned to you?
Yeah, is it just information you find useful?
Or is it something else, something that clicks on a deeper level, reflects who you are, or helps you see things in a new way that feels right?
That really is the question, isn't it? When someone presents their work, their wisdom, as something potentially attuned to you, what does that imply about the relationship they're trying to build?
And maybe more importantly for you, the listener, what kind of engagement actually feels like it reflects your genuine connection when you find something that truly resonates?
Is it leaving a comment, sharing it, supporting it financially? What does that look like for you when something feels truly attuned in this massive sea of content?
Something to think about. How do you recognize and how do you respond to that feeling of true attunement?